Enough of that. So Dan Lohrmann is back, and so he's going to be talking about the latest things that keep us awake at night, particularly Matt. He's always worried about those darn hackers, right, Matt?
Absolutely.
Okay, good to know. So what is the hot thing right now, Dan Lohrmann, from Presidio?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Matt and Mike, both of you guys. Appreciate your having me back on the show, and it's great to be with you. I mean, there's a lot going on. I think one of the hot topics, I think the two ones we'll talk about maybe first are we're seeing more and more AI threats. Gen AI, of course, is hot. ChatGPT, and generative AI, artificial intelligence is hot. And then there's also been a recent surge in ransomware that, kind of lulled a little bit in 2022, but it's really picked up in the first half of this year. So I just did a blog piece on that. But starting with the AI, I think it was interesting, the headline that came out this weekend, can you trust your ears? AI voice scams rattle the USA. And it's an interesting headline. We'll post the link so people can go read it. But I'll just read the beginning of this. It's kind of interesting that it kind of sets the stage. The voice on the phone seemed frighteningly real. An American mother heard her daughter sobbing before a man took over the phone and demanded a ransom, but the girl was an AI clone and the abduction was fake. It goes on to describe several of these that have happened around the country. And I think the interesting thing that goes on with these is, as we have, we talk about all the benefits of AI, but faking people's voices is becoming, we talked about deep fakes online, people's pictures, is it really you? Is it really, Mike? Is it really Matt? Is it Dan? Or is it someone else, imitating you? There's more and more tool sets. It's getting kind of scary where they can just with a few minutes, or in some cases, even as little as 30 seconds. I think some of them actually go a little bit longer than that, but they can train this to imitate you and imitate your voice. And then that's used by the scammers for all kinds of nefarious purposes. And we can talk through some of the scenarios, but you can imagine the voice recognition kind of turned against us. I think that's one of the hot things. I'll let you guys respond to that, but several stories around that. Thankfully, in this one story they have on Yahoo News, and it was covered by AP really around the world. It had a happy ending. The woman was able to contact her daughter, find out that no, she wasn't, abducted, and didn't pay the ransom. But there's been some scary stories.
It's kind of like it's kind of like phishing attacks, except a whole lot more sophisticated, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yep.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Matt. Go ahead.
No problem. To me, this also highlights the fact that you don't really want to overshare on social media with people who aren't really your friends, because they could pick up on details about you that they could find useful in one of these scams, right?
It's really true, and it makes me wonder as well. I think these are early days of utilizing that, but people say the information we share for years. We've been talking about phishing, PHIS phishing, not FISH phishing. So phishing, getting people to click on links, getting people to do things in social media, sharing information. But it makes us wonder. The three of us, there's plenty of recordings of your MITech News around, and could they just take my voice off of some of your and Mike and you and Matt and others, radio hosts, people who appear, videos of people, family videos of people who are listening to this. It's pretty scary. I think it does definitely show that we really need to trust but verify. The trust but verify thing is really going to become central, and and sadly we're being more and more skeptical of what you can trust online. Is it real? Is it legit? Or is it someone impersonating you?
Some people even are going as far as saying this could be the internet killer. People will just say, I don't trust anything on the internet anymore. But I'm not sure what would we replace it with. But that has come up. I've read in some different columns that have come to me.
I agree. And especially when people start talking about, I think they're quickly trying to get their arms around this. Microsoft and Google and some of these like ChatGPT and Bard and other tools that people are using. The fear is that if the internet gets flooded with fake stories, if the AI can can flood the internet with fake stories, then what stories are real? It's kind of does the real story become the needle in the haystack? And hopefully that will not happen. But I think that's the fear. And I think one of the things, I'll just give you an example of that for the audience is Elon Musk in a really good interview I think a few weeks ago. And the people have different views on Elon Musk. But it was a good interview on CNBC, and he talked about why Twitter is doing what they're doing to verify who you're talking with. And you pay that $7 a month, but he said just the model of it's so cheap to fake for AI to just literally flood the internet with fake content. If you can just charge a small fee, and put things behind, I hate to say it, a paywall, but make things it becomes currently in 2023, it becomes very, very expensive for the bad actors to do that, pay $7 every time they want to impersonate somebody. It's expensive, or $7 a month, right? So they don't want to do that. They'll just move on to the next, medium, and try and imitate other people. So I think you're going to start seeing more paywalls. I think you're going to start seeing more services that are going to be, trustworthy news or we're already seeing that anyway. Pay to play. Whether you're using the Washington Post, Lansing State Journal, different things. Detroit. They want to charge you, right, for subscription. More and more, I think I'm hearing. I'm not an expert in that area, but that's going to become more of a trend.
So what do you think? I think since the last time you were on the show, we didn't get a chance to talk about this. It hadn't happened yet. Last week, the two AI researchers saying that artificial intelligence could lead to human extinction. Yeah. I didn't really do a deep dive into that because it struck me as sort of hysterical. But did you? And what did you think of that opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly gets people's grabs headlines. It might seem rather extreme. I suspect that they're talking, 2040, 2050, 20, 30 years out, which still in the grand scheme of things is not very far out.
Right.
I certainly don't see that trend, in the next decade. I mean, could things develop in a certain way? I mean, obviously, I did think it was, a bit scary that some of the leading people that are benefiting from this, with OpenAI, with, the Elon Musks of the world, that, some of the brightest minds, people who had left I forget the gentleman's name, who left Google and said, I'm now going to start raising the alarm about this, that this is going to be dangerous, are some of the same people that are benefiting from it now. So they're kind of almost hedging their bets. They're saying, this is great, jump on board, everybody should do this. And at the same time, oh, by the way, it could really be dangerous and it could really harm us down the road. So it's interesting. I think that's a little bit of fear mongering. I agree with Richard. We had some chat with Richard Steenan online, and, LinkedIn, some articles. The people who are the naysayers typically don't do well in these spaces. So, I mean, I tend to try and be an optimist, trying to be more positive towards it. But are there risks? Certainly. And the bad actors certainly are using it now against us, as we've just talked about with voice recognition. So it could be used for good. It could be used for evil. I think we have both of those out there.
Or you have the iRobot scenario where you have the robot that's your personal assistant. Of course, in that movie, obviously there was a bad little robot that got all these other robots to do bad things. Nobody really knows. But I mean, I can't tell you how many stories I get every week on somebody talking about AI doing something. It's just amazing how, and it all came up from November, just poof, all of a sudden it's here. And who was I talking to this morning? Somebody was talking to somebody, and they were saying Chat GPT now is up to, I can't believe this number, 1 billion customers. That can't be right. That just seems absurd.
It does seem a little high, but I know they were the fastest to 100 million, but they're at 1 billion now. Wow, that's I hadn't heard that.
$20 a month too. Think about that. Jeez, that's a lot of money, So
yeah,
anyway, we digress. So. We don't know. I don't think Matt and you're a much younger man than Matt and I, so I don't know whether we'll see it in our lifetime. But who knows? What was that other thing you want to chat about? I forgot.
I just wanted to mention, yeah, I did and I'll send you guys a link. You can post it. I did a blog post this weekend on government policy over the we get related to cyber policy, government cyber policy. The title of the blog is Government Cyber Policy: The Way We Were, the Way We Are, and the Way We Will Be. Really good piece. I thought in a magazine I read every now and then called Lawfare, talking, lawyers talking and blogging and writing, but really walking through kind of the first policies that came out from the White House under the Clinton administration, going back 25 years. So it was 25 years ago when the first big directive came out called Presidential Decision 63, or PDD, Presidential Directive 63 in 1998 came out. And walk through, for the first time, kind of national cyber policy. One of the positive things that came out of this is one of the very few areas in the country, really across 3 Democratic presidents and 2 Republican presidents, obviously George W. Bush and Trump, but Clinton, Obama administration, and now the Biden administration. There's been a broad consensus in many areas of cybersecurity. It's one of the very few areas, and certainly there are differences. There tend to be more, Democrats tend to like more regulation, more oversight. Republicans a little bit more free market. But by and large, cybersecurity has been a topic that has been received really broad support from both sides of the aisle, and it's a really good piece. And I kind of explore that. And then they lay out some of the new challenges we're facing in the coming decade around things like we just talked about. What's going to happen with artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and policies around that, and how that could really impact the security industry. Probably should do another whole show, Mike and Matt, later this summer or this fall, just on quantum computing and quantum algorithms, and what's coming down the pipe with that, and how that could really change the cybersecurity industry dramatically in the years ahead. So that's a big topic. But I really found the history lesson around cybersecurity policy coming out of the White House to be fascinating. And for those who are interested, it might be boring to some, but certainly one of the few areas we've had bipartisan support.
Matt?
Interesting. Okay. So, I mean, are we still looking at ransomware? Is that still a problem? How are people getting into these systems to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just mentioned quickly that a lot of people. It's interesting. I was at RSA, and Richard was out there as well about over a month ago, and people talked about, is ransomware dead? Is it dying? Well, we certainly had a lull in 2022, but in 2023, it really has kind of come back. The first half of 2023, some really bad months. Just some headlines this morning: universities hit in the United States and in the UK. Manchester University was hit. It continually is a hot topic. It's evolving, it's changing. But some people might even say ransomware is making a big comeback. So unfortunately, if 2022 was a good year, it's still a lot of bad ransomware in 2022, but it's certainly the numbers were down a little bit, but they're looking to be surging again now. And by the way, that's another topic related to insurance. People talked about insurance premiums for cyber insurance had come down a little bit, again, based on the numbers from 2022, but now with the numbers going back up, will cyber insurance premiums start going back up? So those are some trends to think about.
Okay. So if folks want to reach out to you, Mr. Lohrmann, how's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I blog every week on Government Technology Magazine at Lohrmann on cybersecurity. You can certainly go there on Twitter at GovCSO. That's GOVCSO. And feel free to reach out on LinkedIn as well. I talk to people every day. Dan Lohrmann on LinkedIn.